Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weirdly Magical 2021 overview. We're about to kick 2020 to the curb. Um, I think most people are not too unhappy about that, though in many ways it's been a good year for me personally. But I'm Louise Eddington, astrologer, writer of two books, Modern Astrology and Complete Guide to Astrology, and shamanic practitioner. And Jen?
I'm Jen Duchenne. Hi, everyone. Akashic mentor, soul guide, teacher, writer, creator of the Illuminating Journey cards, global guardian of the Akashic records.
Cool. And we thought we'd start in our usual way when I remember and pull cards first of all. So one card each for the year. And then how it's going to work is after we look at the cards and talk about those, I'm going to do a short astrological slide presentation. Jen's going to do her short presentation. Then we're just going to talk about the whole themes of the year overall. So then we'll take questions. So Jen, your card.
So my card is the 21 from the Illuminating Journey deck. So I find that really interesting that the 21 came up for the year 21. This sense for me when I look at this card is the figure in the cave kind of holding her own or their own, this sense of being completely in the flow of the cosmic consciousness and of the self-awareness, and the magical creature, the flying horse, forgotten his name, Pegasus, there you go. So that sense of being so connected to the consciousness of self, the consciousness of the earth, the awareness of the ancient wisdom. There's a lot of different things in here about the ancient wisdom. And of course, we are in the year 21. So there is a energy here about truth and love. There's a lot of energy around in this card around love. And being kind of broadcasting that message of what flows down from the universe out into the world, and the wings of Pegasus. So I find that interesting. The wings of Pegasus kind of helping move the energy out or carry the message out into the world. So it kind of, to me, says like, what are you listening to? What is the thing that's sacred to you that you are following? And also makes me think about the heart, that sense there is actually I don't know if you can see that in the picture. That's actually what it's what love, some kind of donut in the universe, out in the universe, representing love. So
Lovely. And I love that it's very visionary card because 2021 is not, we're not out of the weeds of challenges by any means yet, but it's a very forward thinking year. We are moving forward. And the card that I pulled is actually the Six of Wands, which is the Jupiter in Leo card, which is the victory card. And this card usually suggests that, in about within 6 months or so, we'll start to feel this sense of victory, as in having conquered some kind of spiritual growth. The Wands card is very much about spirit. I find it interesting. I've got wings on the top of mine, and Jen has the flying birds, even though mine is more a fire card. We're moving into this fire and air energy. So we've got fire and air. And also, interestingly, because I come at it from a more astrological perspective, and we'll talk about it in the rest of the presentation, we're moving into this time of air, but particularly Aquarius. And Leo is the opposite sign to Aquarius. And it's somebody's come to the door. Always happens,
Must be 2021 at the door.
Yeah. Yeah, it's knocking. Anyway, and Leo is ruled by the heart. So this is really about following the heart and really kind of stepping in to draw everything together. Like, look how these things are crossed. Then we have the transformation. We have the Eye of Horus with the visionary energy. We have the Phoenix of transformation, and then I'm losing words as like you as well. Also, a symbol of transformation that I cannot remember what it's called, but there you go. The flower, the lotus.
Yes, right, the flower. That's it. And you know what's so interesting is I find that we both, since as you said, we both have that connection to the heart or courage and the
Mhm.
vision
Mm,
and the symbology. It almost feels like it's like somebody's holding up a, what do you call it? You know, an emblem of something like this is the way forward. It's like lighting the path forward. And that's kind of how I feel about the card, my card as well. It's this sense of being very kind of focused on this thing that is spiritual and so expansive.
yeah,
And it requires like all of the attention, like all of our attention needs to go into this energy of being uh, kind of the messenger in a sense, right? The messenger for ourselves and for the thing we visualize going forward and for others. So, you know, living our truth, really.
exactly. And when we come to do my slide presentation, you'll see that we do start the year with this focus on spirit, basically on practical spirituality, how to really start to devote ourselves to taking care of the collective and each other. And in that note, shall I share my slides for now?
Yes.
Okay, I just have to hit present. There we go. Now, if you, this should take you all to full screen. If you don't like that, you can hit escape and you get it on a smaller screen. So just there's my website for you. But so I decided actually to start my presentation on December the 21st, not on January the 1st. And the reason for that, and most of you, if you follow astrology at all, have probably heard of it already, but we're having what's called the Great Conjunction, but is also a Great Mutation. And to point to it, we have Jupiter and Saturn exactly conjunct at 0 degrees Aquarius on December 21st, on the solstice, right after the sun has moved into Capricorn, which is the solstice. And the great conjunctions happen about every 20 years, just under 20 years. But what's special about this great conjunction is that it's called the Great Mutation. And that means we've had almost 200 years of great conjunctions in Earth signs, meaning we've had almost 200 years of very big focus on earthy material world, accumulation, on money, on very earthy things. And now we're moving into air, and we're moving into air in very big ways, because not only have we got are we going to have almost 200 years of great conjunctions in air signs. This one starts at 0 Aquarius, and we're also moving into the astrological age of Aquarius from the age of Pisces. Now, astrological ages are around 2000 to 2600 years long. There's no kind of one start day and one shift, but we've been moving into it for a while. That's why there was, in Hair, there was the song about the age of Aquarius. So we're shifting, but this is kind of a major shift into the age of Aquarius. Things are going to start to change rapidly with this shift. Also conjunct that, we have Pallas Athena there, and she is associated with Aquarius, the sign as well, and she is kind of the visionary. She's the strategist, she's the planner, but she's also a warrior, but she's very much about wise justice. She is the owl. So it's bringing that kind of wisdom of the owl and that more being able to see things we've not seen before. This is going to launch a period of innovation that's quite frankly going to blow our socks off, I think. Quite, you know, the new, we can see it happening already. The two of the vaccines that are probably going to go ahead for the coronavirus are very different vaccines. They work with RNA and DNA, and I don't quite understand the science, but they don't give you some of the live virus, which is what vaccines always have been about before. And even the program to bring in these treatments and vaccines was called Warp Speed. And so this is what's going to happen with all this shift into Aquarius. Things are going to change very, very, very quickly. And 2021 is kind of the launch of that. I'm not going to go into the whole chart, but I had to start there because then the whole year becomes very Aquarian, very Uranian, and very Saturnian. One other aspect of this period is that Saturn and Uranus, you'll see when I come to look at the major aspects, are going to have this dance for the whole of 2021, squaring each other 3 times with Uranus over in Taurus. And what's significant about that is not only that it's a square and a big square, but Saturn and Uranus are the traditional and modern rulers of Aquarius. And Aquarius is a very unusual sign. It's a mix of the traditional and conservative and very futuristic and very radical. So I think in 2021, we can clearly see it happening already. There's going to be a lot of, you know, tension between conservatism and radical change. So that's one other thing. One other thing I do want to mention that we start the year. So I'll go to the next chart. It was already there on December the 21st, but I'm going to point to this square. We have a mutable T-square to kind of really draw in 2021. And this is Vesta. This is that theme of devotion that I talked about. It's opposing Neptune in Pisces. And then it's square to the lunar nodes, which are our past, what we're moving away from. In Sagittarius, we're moving away from fixed beliefs of saying this is the way it has to be, and moving to a more time of openness and community and listening to others. Hopefully that's the potential anyway. So all of that's being brought in. But why this is also significant on the start of the year is that on New Year's Eve, Venus moves past the South Node. And after that point, for 3 months, we are in what's called the draconic bowl. That means all the major planets are trapped on one side of the lunar nodes. And this happened earlier in 2020, and that's when all the lockdowns happened, and we were trapped, and we were shut down. Businesses had to close down because of COVID and things. Now we already, you know, I do want to start with a bit of a warning that we're probably, if we're not actually locked down by our governments, we are going to probably feel still shut down and locked down. So my opinion, I think it's better to kind of prepare for that and know that for 3 months, we're probably still going to feel quite trapped, because it's not until March the 26th, when Mars moves past the North Node, that things will start to open up again. And you know, whether that's physical lockdowns or just feeling like we still have to stay safe, stay home, all those things, stay distant, stay not eat in restaurants, whatever, you choose to do. I'm not prescribing, but this is how the first 3 months of the year, and the rest of the winter in the Northern Hemisphere, at least, is probably going to play out. And you'll see we still have this square. I'm going to point it again to the nodes as well. That's mutable grand cross or grand square that we've got. So it's tension and change. So there's a lot more change coming. So I did want to start with that, because we may as well, I'm prepared. I'm prepared really not to do anything till April. not to, no, I mean, not do anything, but do only home-based things and do things that keep us safe. So I did want to give you an overview of the major astrological aspects. And actually, Jen, I had a thought just as we started. Last year we emailed out the slides, but I think this year we are going to put this on YouTube eventually. And when we post it on the page, I think we'll put a link to the PDFs of the slides on our Facebook page, Weirdly Magical, so we don't have to keep emailing it out. You can go and download the PDF yourself if you want all our dates and things like that. So I've put the important dates. I'm not going to go through them all. Okay. But I did want to point out some big things. The big things are that we have those squares to Uranus in Taurus. And in January, we have 3. And January is very tense month, to be quite honest, because we not only have Uranus stationing direct on January the 14th, which is always a point of tension. We also have Jupiter squaring Uranus on the 17th. Mars finally left Aries, left his retrograde, and moved into Taurus, conjunct Uranus on Inauguration Day in the US. And then on February the 17th, we have Saturn making the first square to Uranus in Taurus. And because Uranus is hardly moving at the start of the year, we start the year with very big tension, but tension brings potential and change also. And this is innovative. This is the potential for you personally to really kind of leap out of the gate, as it were, with radical changes in your own life, in your business, in your work, whatever you do, whatever you choose to do. With every tense aspect comes huge potential, because often without that tension, we kind of don't feel the impetus to do much. So don't kind of look at it with fear, but just know my personal approach for that first month and a half and first 3 months even is that I am going to launch some things in my business that can be done from home, do things that I choose to do from home. Could you turn your mic off, whoever's? Oh, okay, I'll mute. Oh, okay. And then the other things of I've given you the eclipse dates. We end this year with eclipses. We have a total solar eclipse on December the 14th. We have an eclipse coming up this month. And then next year, the eclipses are still in Sagittarius and Gemini. So they are still bringing big change in our beliefs and in our communities. And then they start to shift at the end of the year and into 22 into Earth signs. So I've given you all the retrograde dates, not going to go out over them. The one significant one I will mention is Venus was retrograde in 2019 in Gemini, bringing a lot of change, but she is going to go retrograde right at the end of the year on December the 19th at 26 degrees Capricorn, kind of activating a lot of the change that we've had in 2020 and really bringing in the new values and things like that we've got. So back to the next slide. I wanted to talk about the main planet ruling the year, and in my opinion, it's Uranus. And I've given you the dates again of the squares. You can see there's a big concentration early in the year that I've mentioned. Right in the middle of the year, Saturn squares Uranus again, and on Christmas Eve, Saturn squares Uranus again. And so it's lasting all year, the Saturn Uranus square. This is due to retrogrades and things. And what that's doing is bringing that tension between the radical innovation and change and the conservatism. But to look at it from another good perspective, Saturn is also mastery and Saturn is maturity. So we have that aspect of it as well. So Uranus innovation. So there's going to be a lot of mastering of innovation and maturing of innovation throughout the year. So that's really kind of huge as well. So we'll have major and sudden shifts in the material realm with Uranus in Taurus, changes to money, changes to material values, to go back to Venus rules Taurus. And I mentioned at the end of the year, she activates all that Capricorn energy that we've had throughout 2020. Our value systems are changing and we are being liberated. So Uranus brings change, revolution, disruption, and innovation, and most of all, liberation. So, that goes back to our cards. I think both cards were very on that Uranus energy kind of thing of change. I did want to add that I thought of this morning that I should mention that all three Mercury retrogrades in 2021 are going to be in air signs. So not only do we have that shift into air with the shift into Aquarius, we've got a lot of air energy with the Mercury retrogrades as well. And Mercury air signs are all about the mind and thoughts and communication and innovation. So I cannot stress, as if I haven't mentioned it enough, what a year it's going to be for innovation and change and liberation. So, but that's not always easy, of course. The secondary planet ruling the year, in my opinion, is not Saturn, but Eris, because Eris is the newly discovered dwarf planet. It's discovered in 2005, named in 2006. That really has been bringing in the chaos that we've been experiencing, because she is the goddess of discord and chaos. But I see her as good trouble or necessary chaos, really. Pluto and Eris squared each other 3 times in 2020. As we record this, the third square is going to come on December the 10th. But in next year, oops, to go back again, she finishes up her squares in the summer and in the fall with 2 more squares to Eris. And after that, the 2 will not connect in most of our lifetimes, not till Pluto catches up to Eris. Most of us will be long gone by then, because they're both very slow moving planets. So that kind of shows how rare this square was. And these 3 squares, I like to think of it, the 3 squares have been very associated with, as have many things, with the pandemic and all the other troubles that we've had going on. And the last 2 squares kind of finish the story. They kind of really bring it up. That's not to say the pandemic, for example, will be at its height for the whole of 2020, 2021. But I do think the story is finishing up by then. And it also represents as well a lot of the collapse of our institutions and structures. As I've written in the slide, she's the uninvited, and she reveals the artifice of the elites and the inequities of society. So it's kind of that revolutionary energy with Uranus and Eris that's happening right throughout 2021. We can just hope that it's going to be peaceful revolution. Unfortunately, we can't tell which way it's going to manifest. Either way, it's going to be revolutionary. So the potentials for you throughout 2021 are liberation, innovation, positive change awareness, time-saving and life-changing futuristic discoveries, I think. More detachment and spatial separation I see coming, but we're learning to kind of live with it and live with it in a different way. More transitioning to virtual working permanently for many, many people, I think, is going to happen. And changes to food production using new innovations, including more community food growing, but I think there's going to be ways we haven't even thought of. So again, I am the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology. My website's louiseeddington.com. Jen and I are both offering a special just to give a 2021 boost and support. We'll send out links to both of those, but that's the link to mine, and we'll send them out with the recording to you all. So if you wish to partake in that. All right, so I shall stop my share and Jen, take it away.
All right, that was great, Louise. What a fantastic overview. So now I'm going to attempt to share my screen. It says host disabled, participant screen sharing. Your sound is off.
I can make you a co-host.
Okay. Thank you. And all right, now I need to view, present. Well, hello, everyone. Technology, a beautiful thing. So here we are. This is me, Jen Dushen, and we're moving into 2021. So this image here is just to give you an idea of how we're stepping into the unknown, the collective evolution that is so key. And just looking at this scene, many times we think about this as a sense of liberation, of freedom. I can just float free and all that energy of the air and the unknown. And yet some of us think about this as just something we do on the side, that it's not our life, that it's just something we do sometimes. And also some of us may be terrified of just floating out into the unknown. But that's really the energy of what we are connecting to what Lou was talking about, this idea of being in this place where we're traveling towards the unknown, the revolution, the radical change, the impact of all of that is often first triggered by what we fear. We fear the idea that we have to change, that things are going to be different. And that's certainly been the lesson of 2020. And the coronavirus, the crown, has been the lesson that we can't control what happens. And in fact, it's all part of the mutation that Lou mentioned, the mutation of what we've been going through, this idea of moving from one thing to another. So we are in the mutation period. And so this is the opportunity. And when you are in mutation, this is when you are experiencing the change. So 2021 has 3 key numbers. The 2021 calendar year number 21, universal number 5, because we add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1, and the root number 3, 2 plus 1. So I'm going to talk about what these numbers mean, because they are a guide to what's happening. So there is a universal truth about the number 21. It's not just what we say, here's the key to your freedom, but this truly is a universal belief that the truth will set you free. And if we think about it, so much of what we've lived, certainly this industrial age that we've been in for the last over 200 years, since we've been in the earth-based idea of making things and proving our worth through material things, we're now moving into a place where it is our ideas, that our imagination, our connection to our spirit, what is true for us, that will set us free. So that idea, the truth will set you free, can get very mixed up, because as you can see, many people have different truths. So when we start going in, well, my truth is the truth, but of course none of us are connected to the truth except through our connection to the divine and to the earth. That singular energy that we talked about in the two cards, that's the truth of the divine, the truth of the source energy, the earth energy of us being here to have an experience. Most of us, what we call truth is actually an opinion, right? We just have an opinion about something and we think our opinion is the one because it's the way we've lived. And many of these opinions are fixed. So if you think about this year as being something that is going to push us into a place of being disengaged or loosening the hold on what we think is true, just like it started in with Corona, with the whole year of 2020, we have been breaking away from these rigid ideas of what is true and what is possible. How many people said these things will never happen? Well, they're happening, right? So we know that none of this stuff, the stuff we consider true and valuable, is necessarily true or valuable. And that's part of this energy of really getting to understand, what does it mean to be in truth? So 21 was named by the ancients, it was called the crown of the Magi, which is talks about the collective consciousness, or the ability for us to connect to the cosmic consciousness. When we talk about collective, not just the individual or less than the individual, but the massive consciousness of all of us and what's available to us, which is so much bigger than we have in our little world. And the way we deal with that is by being connected to who we are, right? So that's the key. Like, if you think you can go out and tell other people what to do, or try to understand what other people are doing and find your truth in their opinions and what they're doing, you're just going to be more and more disconnected and lose your ability to understand what this is about. What does it mean to have a key? What does it mean to be unbound, to be unlocked, to lose the being imprisoned, basically, because you've been given a bunch of keys? So you can say that this not only is 21 related to the 21st century, right? It is related to the energy of the truth. How do we find the thing that is true for us? How do we step through the portal, unlock those keys, take that bunch of keys, and really use this as an idea that allows us to merge into what is a soup with greater sense of truth and freedom and connection to ourselves. So this is one thing that is so key about this time we're in, and about the 21 and all of the 20s, right? This whole 21, the 21st century, it's all about connecting to what is the connective consciousness, the way we are linked to everything in the world, not just ourselves and our lives, but how we connect or plug into that, and what we take out when we come to this idea that life is about us having an experience. So then we look at the number 3. And 3 is about the freedom of expression. 3 is the number of the child, 1, 2, and 3, right? And we have those numbers 1, 2, and 3 this year, or next year, 21. We have 1, 2, and 3, because 2 plus 1 makes 3. So those are the prime numbers, but 3 is a number that has so much connection to being human. We talk about things in 3s all the time. The triad, the, source, ourselves and the earth, the mother, the maiden and the crone. It's over and over. There is this energy of the 3 in our world, right? So 21 is one of those numbers. When you turn 21, you get the key. When you hit the 3, it's also the same thing. It awakens within us the sense of rhythm of life. When you're taking the 1 and 2, which is considered the male and female, so the kind of the action, and then the innovation or the idea, the intuition that then creates the 3. It's the birthing, right, of something, the child that then wants to go out and explore and feel love and be curious about what the world is about. It's about the discovery of doing, not just thinking about ideas, but exploring ideas, experimenting. And the way to do it when you are in alignment is through the heart, right? You do things because you love them. You do things because they're connected to your values. You're not just doing it because it's an experiment and it doesn't matter if it hurts somebody, etc. So remembering when you're doing things with joy, when you're coming from that place of you value yourself, you value the things that are around you, and you treat them with that sense of total joy and wonder that is given to you. So there's this energy in the 3 of, movement, entertainment, wittiness, fun. There's a lot of lightness, local travel. There is all of this energy that's available to us. But remembering what Lou was saying about the idea that we are going to be constricted for the first quarter of the year, the first 4 months. And that's part of change. Like, we must change through restriction. We don't get to bypass restriction, because this is how we refine who we are. So we want to be playful. We want to be curious. We want to be open. There is the sense of wonderment about what is happening, what is available to us in this. And then we go to the 5, which is the total number, the universal year. So 3 is the calendar year, 5 is the universal year. So 5 is all about freedom. In fact, 5, the energy of 5 is about being at one with God. So in this moment, in the present moment, that's true liberation. We're not thinking about the past, thinking if only I did something different. We're not worried about the future, like I'm going to control something and make it happen. We're really believing and energized in the moment, so connected to that spirit of self, of God, of earth, so connected to our existential nature in a physical form, right? The embodiment, because this isn't about going out of your body. This is about coming into your body and knowing that you are free in a physical body, that you are safe, that you are liberated to do whatever feels connected. All of these numbers, the kind of challenge of these numbers is that they bring up anxiety. They bring up fear of performance. They make us afraid to, what will people think about me when I do this? What will happen to me? Will I lose all the things I value? And that's really the beauty of COVID, right? With all the horror of it, is that it's teaching us that we don't lose the things we value. We may lose some people, and of course that's really sad, but it also gives us an opportunity to feel our emotion, our true emotion, right? Not the fake stuff, but the real emotion of what it feels like to connect with death. What does it feel like to connect to life? What does it feel like to connect to the breath of who we are? And these are the essential energies, not only on how we approach life, right now, but on how we live it through our emotions. What is the unconscious thought that we can make conscious? And this picture here kind of says it all. If you think about going on the high seas, of kind of, you're going on an adventure, right? Going on the high sea is a huge risk, especially if you go in a little boat. Look at these little boats on this crazy water, right? It's like insane. But this is the year of 2021. So I know people are really happy that we're moving to another year. But if you think that this is going to be just a walk in the park, it is not. This is going to demand the energy of you finding that absolute sense of freedom. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to unbind? Uh, create and liberate? What are you willing to risk to have this connection, not only to source, but to the earth, to be in that sense of total liberation? I am safe. I am free to do all of the things that I need to express. When you think about the fact that we are here to express ourselves, not to have opinions about whether this is right or wrong and get trapped in that and trying to control others and control everything, but truly to move on the water of life, no matter how violent the water is, we move with it, right? And if we fall in, we embrace the energy of what that feels like, and then we do whatever we need to do, right? We create a place, we move from panic and anxiety to a place of stillness. So we know that whatever happens, we can move through it like this mutated water, in a sense. It's not water, but it's like we're in water. So if you think about that in terms of the energy of what's happening, things are happening. You're getting knocked over, you're getting toppled over, you're being called to the ark. What are you taking with you? There is risk. It's like, actually, it's like going on the Titanic, right? Some people actually survive the Titanic, right? And many of us will survive. So, but it isn't about that sense of panic that I need to survive. This is about that sense of opening your heart and opening your energy to knowing this is an adventure. This is a true adventure. The rules of the game have changed. So the influence and indicators of 2021. We have 3 and 5, they're both odd numbers, which is really interesting, right? Because that means we are not doing the usual. We have 2 odd numbers. One is emotional, the other is mental. So we know this is about finding that connection between what we think about and our imagination and how we express and explore it, and how ebullient we can be with this idea without getting too caught up in a story or in being enchanted, right? Because if you're going to be enchanted, then you better make sure, because enchanted means chanting towards something, right? Like you're spelling yourself. And we're moving away from a lot of old spells and conditions. So we're being released, all those keys, all those locks opening, all those chains breaking apart, we're being released. But we don't want to be enchanted to the place where we're following somebody else's muse or getting involved in somebody being our guru, and we're not thinking for ourselves. And we can see out there people who are doing that. They're choosing somebody or an idea to follow because they don't know they're supposed to look within. So the thing about this time is that we do want to find the collective, and we want to work with people and work with ideas, but we want to make sure that they align to our values, and we must not fear discourse. We must not fear having a difference or going, yes, I agree with you about this, but I don't agree about this. So let's find something different. And this speaks to a lot of the innovation that Lou was talking about, this idea of innovating this idea, but being with the heart, right? It's like, what is it that I am bringing about into the world? Am I just experimenting for the sake of experimenting and ideas and just flowing out there and getting out on a limb, doing things that have no value and are kind of wasting your energy? I've talked about all three being prime numbers. Both 3 and 5 sit on a rocker and they're open, right? 5 is open on both sides. It swivels. It is open to what's happening from the past, what's happening from the future. It's taking all of the things we have realized in the last few years since we started the cycle 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going into the 5th year. We're in the middle of this universal cycle. So whatever we've learned and whatever we know we need to release, we are now kind of doing that whole thing. And that ties into that whole Pluto, no, not Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Uranus impact that we're having, the conjunction and the squares, because this is about changing who we are, but changing and very fast moving. We have to be thinking very clearly. The 5 being the mental number, that's the mind, thinking, imagination, swift thinking, making quick decisions, deciding. I'm very clear about who I am, so I know I can leap in this. Or I'm just going to do it because I know it's going to take me towards where I want to go, which doesn't mean we don't want to be sure of who we are, but we often learn through the experience of doing. 21 indicates the community before individual, because 2 is in front and we're in the 21st century. We're all working towards this idea of being connected to each other. And by being who we are, right? Not the way we've been in the past, where we lied about who we were so we could be part of a group, but the complete opposite, that we can be real about who we are, genuine and honest. We don't need to fight about it. We can just, like, this is who I am and this is how I want to live. And either we agree and we work together, or we find a solution, or we find different tribes to do different things. One of the things is to think about how we don't need to do everything together with the same people, right, as we have in the past. This is a dissolution of old religion, old thinking, old ways of being very rigid in how we've been. All these letters that I'm going to talk about now are all open and receptive to change, as are these numbers, right? The 3 is open, the 5 is open, the 21 is a number that is truly in balance. When I talk about that, it's the opportunity to be so in balance with the universe, with the collective, with yourself, and opening up that lock. So the 3 letters of 2021, I made a little, whatever you call it, out of it. Q, the word Q, C-U-E. Those are the 3 letters. Take your cue from the fluidity, the change, the chaos, adventure, freedom, travel, truth, the unraveling that brings a need to unify what is essential, the essence. Aspire. Aspire is about our breath. Inspire, it's about our breath. We are filled with breath. And that brings us into this moment, being at one with our breath. So just thinking about these letters, the C for the 3, the E for 21, and the E for 5, and the U for 21. And all of the words that go with it. The letter E connects to Eris, energy, evolution, eager, entrainment, esoteric, epiphany, erotic, electricity, effervescent, elevate, egg, all of the things that allow us to expand our being, right? And take the risk of being or looking like a fool or not knowing where you're going because you're so enjoying life and the opportunities it gives you. We often tend to think about enjoying or happiness being about everything is where I know it is, and I'm in control of everything. And this is the complete opposite. So the letter E includes all aspects of the soul associated with the celestial, the divine, the physical elements under the sign of 5, because it relates to the 5, right? Symbolizes renewal, movement, growth, life itself. So the very things that make us grow as individuals and the collective. It's like we're in a laboratory and we're growing ourselves anew, right? We don't have to stick to any of those old ideas of who we were or what people said we were. This is definitely about changing the electrical currents in our bodies, in our communication, in how we connect and grow. The letter U, which fits in with Uranus. So we know we got it. So funny how all of these things connect. Unorthodox, unique, unfolding, unfiltered, universal, understanding, unity, unraveling, undoing, unifying, uplifting. We're allowing ourselves to become undone, which is an essential in order to go into the new, right? As we allow ourselves to seed a new idea of ourselves. So again, not battling the change, but moving into the change. We're moving onto the high sea. We're unlocking all the gates, and we're letting ourselves travel and be curious about this journey that we're on, and deciding that, is this something I want to do more of? Is it something I want to do something less of? Is it something I need to put a boundary around, as opposed to I'm going to hold the tide and stop all this change happening? Because not going to work. Oh, did I miss the letter C? I did. I missed the letter C. So I guess that was last. Completion. This time we're entering is a time of completion. We have completed a huge round and we're moving into something new. The letter C, common, series, collective, century, Christed energy, compassion, crystal, calling, collapse, celebration, communion, change, currency, coherency. This is all this energy that is bringing us into this space. So third letter of the alphabet, graphically a waning moon, associated with the sea, the great mother, the magna mater, sacred because of the many words. It's adaptable. The sea changes that sound. It's about receptivity and openness. And when you look at all of these letters, right, they're all open. They're kind of like cups, and they're all receiving information, right? They're taking information in. So it's like being very receptive to all of these changes. The letter U represents inspiration and optimism, creativity, and resonates with the ideas of relationships while maintaining independence, which is what I was talking about in the 21. So a very powerful opportunity to truly find independence, as opposed to what we think freedom in and independence is everyone does what I want. And it's like, no, the world doesn't do what you want unless you're on total flow with the energy of the world and that cosmos. So it's kind of like it becomes something. And it's interesting because it's when you change your relationship to the world, which is what 2020 has been about, changing our relationship and how we receive information, how we respond to it. So it helps us deal with change in a much easier and more flexible way. So we're definitely moving into a more flexible time. Whoops. Okay, just the universal months for 2021. You just add 5 to every month. So January is a 6th month, February 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What's so interesting about this year is that we're starting at the 6th and going down. So it's kind of like what Lou was saying. It's like we're starting kind of towards the end part and coming back to the beginning. So it's like we're ending all of the things that need to be connected. And truly, our experience of being locked down is an opportunity to find freedom. Like we don't find freedom without being locked down, right? Or recognizing, wait, I'm in a prison. How do I break free? Is this idea of what do we need to do to kind of mature to that place where we can let go, like we can let go and let God, right? And be so at ease. And this is our practice. We practice through being or feeling locked down or feeling imprisoned or held back. And that recognition that that's an idea, right? That's a concept and a construct. It's not a truth. And the way we find that out is by being curious and asking questions and going, okay, well, what if I do it this way? What if I think about this differently? And we have a whole different experience by changing our minds, which is what this time is about. We are in the time of changing our minds. I did highlight here that July is a 12-3 month, so that's going to be a very important month because it's a double 3. And September is a 14-5 month, so that will also be super important because it's a double 5 month. One of the things that's so important about this time as well is that we are being encouraged to use our voices in a very different way, to trust that our voice has meaning and that it matters, and not kind of go, well, nobody's listening to me, so I better keep quiet, or I'm not important. All of those things, again, are constructs. We made them up. So let's unmake them and move more into an unfolding of what we want to experience. And the joy of experiencing whatever comes, allowing us to create a new form of filter and values. I also just wanted to share, some of the concepts or constructs that have, well, concepts, was that right? I don't know. Ideas or what this time will bring. Got to think about my words that I use, because so many words that we use have a meaning that's we have attached to that are no longer true. So everything then becomes much looser and more open. And we get to redefine so much of this as we experience it. Like I was talking about, when we refine or change or look at the life through this open energy, we are given a whole different experience. So cosmic and earth engagement and shifts, increased connection to other planets and galaxies. This is exploring the greater field of what's possible on the earth and out in the cosmos. So we may have encounters of the strange kind, and that's certainly to be encouraged. Really, once you know who you are, you're not afraid of what you encounter. So it's learning to deal with and accept and allow yourself to be afraid and move beyond that, to move beyond your anxiety by checking into what it is and being curious and open heart, open mind, open receptive arms to what feels good, and no to the things that are not interesting. Universal change, monetary, and our values. There will be a fluidity of all of that. Now, it might not all happen in this year, but we are definitely moving towards that, changing the system of what has been. We're moving from that physical system into a fluidity where we're creating something completely new. The unions and collaborations will be changing and dissolving. So maybe groups, families, organizations that we think will never change will just start disappearing, unraveling, changing. So those that don't move with the change will actually just crash. It's like being one of those boats on the water. You don't change because you want to stay the same, and then your boat just or ship just collapses, breaks down, is pirates are coming on it. So all of those things, right? This is that thing. Like, even if you think about in terms of the ark, if you were going onto the ark, what would you bring? What will be valuable, knowing that the water is rising, that the way we're going to kind of move through this is by connecting to what's true for us, finding the connections with the people that resonate for us. So we are truly beginning to move beyond that energy of being stifled and controlled. There'll be upgrades, innovation, breakaways, emotional upheaval. This is a lot about our emotions, because this is all about learning to be true to our emotions in our bodies, right? Embodying the truth of our emotions as opposed to denying them, pretending they're not real. So the emotions are as real as anything else. However, we want to get to a place where emotions don't drive the bus, meaning the kind of emotions that keep us stuck, like anxiety or worry about what people think about us. And instead, the emotions of joy and expansiveness and expressiveness are the things that activate our exploration and adventure. There'll be changes in eating, in consumption, heat, health, farming, focus, all of those things. We're changing the way all of that stuff is being looked at and used, and excess. We're moving away from excess. So the idea of physical, proof of physical wealth. There will be greater spirituality. And again, that connects to us being spiritual in our bodies, finding a spiritual connection that's not connected to religion or organized thought that has been introduced by people for their own benefit. And we'll have a lot more experiences engaging the unknown that will shake us to the core. So this year, 2021, is going to kick our ass, right? There is no doubt about it. But it also will give us the most incredible feelings of being alive. So how will you live a life unlocked is the question to think about. What does it mean when you've got those locks of free? Will you take the challenge? Will you go for it? And what will you do? Will you keep going back into your old patterns? This is what's true. I'm afraid to move away. Or do you dare to break free? And that's the end. And my website is jenduchenne.com. And as Lou mentioned, we'll have a special offer that'll be going out. All right. So stop share.
So who's excited by the thought of next year? As Jen said, it's definitely going to kick our ass. It's not going to, we're not, ever all this thing, people going about, oh, let's go back to normal. Let's go back to how it was. No, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Could I just turn your video off while we, okay. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, so we're just going to just chat about it a little bit more. There's a couple of things I didn't mention in my presentation about how rare this is, how you could say we're, born for this or lucky to be alive in such tremendous times. The last two grand mutations into air were in 1226, which was the start of the Renaissance, but also brought the Black Death in that period in the air thing. So I'm afraid air viruses are kind of likely to be around for a while. But the Renaissance was just a time of amazing discoveries of art and science and all those things. The one before that was 392 AD, and that was a period where Christianity was adopted by Rome, but you could say that ultimately led to the fall of Rome. So kind of that I would, in my own personal beliefs, it's the misrepresentation of the Christ consciousness. It kind of started to cause trouble with how men had interpreted it. So, so not only are those the great mutations, that's the Jupiter Saturn in air sign. Again, to add to that, we are moving into this astrological age. We're moving out of the age of Pisces, which is the age of roughly aligned with the age of Christianity. And it's kind of this time of watery but connection, but we're moving into this Aquarian age, which nobody knows quite what it'll look like. But some ideas are, I talked about, the vaccines, but we've got SpaceX developing, with all that involves. Who knows what that's going to lead to? Perhaps time travel might even be possible in this period. Who knows? It could, and more different kinds of air travel. with it being air sign, different kind of vehicles. Probably, I've seen a plan for bridges between countries and even continents for kind of high speed rail travel. It's just, yeah, that monolith in the Utah desert. Nobody knows what that is yet. We don't know. It's it's something connected to close encounters of the third kind, they think, but it's in such a remote place. It's a bit unusual, and it's how would they've got it there because it's quite heavy. So it's going to be all these weird discoveries. Maybe it was aliens. It could be aliens, you know. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I
Oh, yeah.
think it could definitely be aliens.
Lisa Merck says we're already doing it with theta healing. Yeah, there's gonna you. I don't believe you've seen anything yet, to be quite honest.
Right.
But
Yeah, yes, this has just been baby steps. This is going to blow the door wide open. So, whatever we think we know, we're going to discover we don't know.
yeah.
But definitely, we are moving into a time of the fantastical, the imagination. We're moving from when you're going into the air sign, it's about the mind, it's about how we think and what we think and how our thoughts influence our lives, right? I mean, our thoughts influence everything. So when we change the container of our thoughts or how we receive thoughts, we are definitely in a different space. So Lisa was commenting on the time and space traveling. Oh, yes, right. Exactly. There is some of that. And I'm sure all people that work with the kind of spiritual energies have felt an uptick in how this works. And it will just keep increasing. So a lot of things about us popping into different time zones, remembering Saturn is kind of the father of time. So we know the time will change with Gemini. It's like the clock will change. So it's thinking about, obviously it's not all going to change in 1 year. So don't worry about it. You still have a bunch of years. But it is highly unusual. So many aspects of what we're experiencing are incredibly unusual, which makes it even more exciting and maybe anxious making. I know a lot of people tend to get worried about what's happening because it doesn't look like it's supposed to. And just know that the only thing that's supposed to look like it's supposed to is you becoming clearer about who you are and your connection. And so, the lighter you walk on the earth, fully embodied,
Mm.
instead of all that baggage, the easier.
Yeah, sure. And there's other things that are potential, great mass movements of people, and how we're going to deal with climate change in a humanitarian way. There's going to be ways we've not thought of, we may all end up kind of living in kind of some bubbles, if you like, and we're kind of getting that foreshadowing of that with the talk of your COVID bubble, and there's just so much to come. Not all of it, of course, is going to be like amazing and wonderful. We're not going to like all of it, and but it is what it is. And I wanted to mention Eris again, and it kind of connects with Jen's numbers as well. I've talked about it a lot throughout 2020, and Eris, of course, being so significant in these 2 years. Her number is 23. And so there's that 2 and the 3, and it adds up to a 5. and and she's bringing this change, and she is also, in my mind's eye, a very gender fluid, kind of pansexual kind of energy. And gender fluidity is just going to be off the charts. I think there's going to be, we see it already developing, but people are just going to identify as who they feel they are, and a lot, there's going to be a lot less of the traditional kind of masculine feminine roles. In my second book, I talk about the age of Aquarius. The Aquarius symbol is a wave, like 2 waves. And that's why people always confuse Aquarius as a water sign, whereas it's actually an air sign. But to my mind, it's all to do with quantum theory and wave theory and all those things, and realizing that there is no actual polarity. We're all on this continuum. It's like this wave of connectedness throughout the universe. We're going to just discover that throughout this next period. Not all of it in 2021, of course. We're talking about what's being launched. So,
Right.
oh, how would I describe it? I hear someone call. Um, it's not phallic. It's kind of square and it's kind of silver. It's like a tower. I would describe.
Right, it's like a tower. It's like a thin tower. So it looks like it's to me, it looks like almost like it's a doorway, although they say it's triangular. It's a doorway that's just dropped in. And it's this invitation for us to enter the idea of wonderment and curiosity as opposed to control. When you try to go, well, I know what it is. I'm going to take it to my laboratory. I'm going to, examine it and try to replicate it and torture it, etc. And instead being like, how can I open up to this and be in that place? When we are in that place, like a child, we have so much connection to ourselves and the earth. There's also the crystalline energy, the Christed energy, which has nothing to do with Christ, but certainly if that's your portal to all of this,
Call
there's
it
nothing
Christ
wrong.
consciousness. Yeah.
Christ consciousness,
Yeah.
it's all okay. It doesn't matter how you enter the portal, but just understanding that the two are linked just by coincidence. Well, coincidence sense of a happening. Something happens. It links to a certain energy. And when you think about the 21, the crown of the Magi, that's the illusion, you could say, to what we might think of as the birth of Christ, right? Which is this idea of an energy coming in. And what I think is so fascinating about this whole, like the mythology of Christ, is this idea, again, of some people think it's about the person, right? It's that guru thing. Here's somebody coming to save me. I can just kind of lie back and they'll do it all. It's kind of like having sex, and I'm making a joke, of course. Anyway, so but the thing is, what the Christ to the energy and the energy of Christ, or anything that comes into our consciousness about thinking differently or opening our hearts and living differently, is that it is giving us principles to live by, not follow me and do what I do, right?
And interesting that while we're on the Utah thing, it's triangular. That's the three, and it's also the Trinity. That it shows up in religion after religion after religion, which is mind, body, spirit. It's like basically, it's not really Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. That's
Exactly. Well, it wasn't originally, it was changed,
yeah.
right? But, and that's the whole idea, is if you can look at things like religion with a sense of curiosity and no attachment to, oh, you can't change that because that's set in stone, just knowing that those ideas came from ideas that existed before. And
And
and we are now at that place, right, where we're recreating new ideas, new spirituality, new meanings, and experimenting, exploring all of this
And
stuff that's
they were
unfolding.
all interpreted by man, by human, you know.
Right.
And that's part of the concept of my book, that we actually shape it by the language we use. Even the energies of the planets and the numbers, we shape it by the language we use. That's why the message of the so-called Christ. I mean, I think there was a teacher, and that's what it's kind of all based on. But he's I am the word, we are the word, we our perceptions and descriptions of the universe create the universe we live in, and our consciousness is expanding and our horizons are expanding with these new discoveries in our universe and our expansion into this SpaceX program and the theta healing and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. And I think this is this idea, if we think about uh, if we think about this idea of being in a world of exploration, when we are the essence, right? The essence of who we are is some kind of energy from God, from the Creator. This is about creation, right? We are an energy of creation, so we get to create what we create. And if we put ourselves in a small box, then we can't really create much because we're looking at other people. Oh, am I following the rules? And when we break free of that, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be awkward. It's kind of like that Eris thing. Eris going to a party where she's not invited,
Yeah.
being the outsider and being looked down upon, and yet she is the one that sets the tone because she knows, she has the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience from being an outsider. So for those of us who have felt like outsiders, this is our time. Like, everyone's looking to us for our imagination and for our willingness to do things that are unusual and push the envelope. And that's the way forward, is you push the envelope, and not so far that you're out of bounds with yourself,
Mhm.
but out of the boxes that we've been in how we've lived. Like, oh, I won't be accepted in society if I say something, or if I do something, or if I believe something. And to me, that's the exciting part about these people that we might think of as crazy. Like, they're on the edge, right? The fool. This is like the energy of that fool who's on the edge, who's willing to risk something. And it's sad that they're putting their belief in something that is so intangible.
Mm.
But clearly, it reflects what they think about themselves, right? That they have no value. So some idea will fill them up. They're
Yeah.
consumed, right? It's about how we eat.
So I did want to mention one other thing about the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. By declination, which means so all the planets kind of travel this path, what's called the ecliptic, and that's what the zodiac is created from our perspective. And for the first time in a long time, Jupiter and Saturn are actually almost close together. They're not just close together at degree of the zodiac, they're right on the ecliptic together. So it's the crown of the major, like Jen said. They'll look as one star, so they're going to look extremely bright. So, I would suggest to really kind of feel into the energies of 2021 and what's being launched, to get outside on December the 21st. Even if it's cold, wrap up warm and see the two of them together, because, well, you won't see it again for sure. And humans won't see it again for a very long time, that close together. So, this is tumultuous and just once in humankind's change, I think, pretty much, to be quite
Right, right.
honest.
It is so extraordinary, and it's so incredible that this is the point. Be in wonderment. That's what
Yeah,
I was told by the Akashic record. This is the age of wonderment.
yeah.
It's to be in wonder, not that you can't do things, but to recognize you're being given, like, it's like the world is opening up to you in such a vast and amazing way. How will you venture upon all of this richness? We're moving from that physical wealth where people wanted proof that I can make all this stuff, to how I can experience things and how I can create connection and cohesion and community.
And
And
also, about how the structures of our life are. This is
right,
how, so kids, school. Do you know schools have actually only existed in the form they have for just over 100 years? And, we're being asked to look at that differently and how to do that differently. Online learning might become a thing. There's kind of, you have a choice whether to embrace it or to resist. And I always think resistance makes things harder. So Heather wanted to ask about the numbers.
all
So
right. So, yeah, let people ask. Put your questions in the chat box so we can ask. And the canon, what we're taught, exactly what we're taught. So we can have the imagination and the intelligence and the curiosity to go, is this valuable to me? Is it still useful? A lot of things, structures that have been in place were put there so people could go to work and become these like workhorses. You think about all of these things, the factories, this is the industrial age that's dying, was all these things were put in place to kind of imprison everyone and let them kind of like, this is my life. I'm like a little mouse in a box and I can't get out.
I mean, I don't think it was intentional to imprison. It's just the way
No,
it's
of course
been.
not. It
Yeah,
wasn't,
yeah,
people didn't go around saying this is what we're going to do. They
yeah.
were looking at how can we support everyone and do it, like there's so many ways, but that was the way that was chosen. And we went along with it. So this is it, is really looking deep into what we're valuing and going, that's impossible to change, and going, is that really something I want to continue to do?
And impossible is I'm possible. So
Right.
it's
Exactly.
all possible. I don't know whether Heather's had to go. She's got a little one. She might have. Oh,
Right. Here we go. Our personal numbers are really connected to 3 or 5. What's the impact? If our personal numbers are really connected to 3 or 5, what's the impact to us personally? My birthday, expression, soul urge of 5. Well, yes, if you have any of those numbers, 3, 5, 21, then this is a huge year for you because it's intensifying the energy. So just to be aware that this is significant. So you will really feel it more than anyone else.
I'm a
And so you want to,
fan.
you want to use this time. Like we're all being given this, what do you say, blank page, carte blanche to do whatever we want because we are in change and no one can really stop us because all the rules and everything are kind of dissolving. And so use this time, and you're being pushed, if you are a 5, a 3, a 21, to be more expressive, to be more open and trusting. This so much about the kind of challenge of the 3 and the 5 and the 21 is not trusting and being worried, like, can I do this? Will it look right? And you want to bust through that. So really spend a lot of time doing what you need to do to get past those locks, right? So definitely it'll have a huge impact on you. So make sure that you are kind of coming back to you, right? Remember, because when we get enthusiastic and excited, we can be taken off our path and we can start following other people without realizing it. And so we want to make sure that, is this true for me? You want to check in. A great thing to do is to do that. Check in, have your vision, right? But know that it's changeable and adaptable and it will change depending on how you feel. You want to check in about your emotional body. How do you feel about this? You know,
So I want to read what Winter Weldon is because time's cracking on,
right.
because the chat won't go out on the recording. So she said, I am seeing Aquarius, the water bearer. I have a problem with it being the water bearer personally, but as presenting the opportunity for the conscious integration of emotion, water into the process of thinking, and intellect, air, as a key for universal healing and uplift. I would agree with that. In dialectical behavior therapy, it is called wise mind. I love that. The integration of masculine and feminine energies, achieving balance, which is what I talk about in my book. So, yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, see, all these paths, these different paths are all moving towards it. These we're talking about the year ahead, and the great conjunction is going to kind of launch it at warp speed. But we're feeling this already, as both of us have mentioned a few of the things we've started to feel coming already. These things don't just happen on a day. How
How
do
do you
I know what your number? Okay, yeah.
add your birthday and years together? The day of birth is one number, and when you add all your numbers together, that's your life path. So that's 2 numbers, and the other is your name. So you'd have to add that all up.
You said you
You
can't wait for your second book. So I've done 2 books already. Is that what you anyway?
No,
Modern Astrology, and the one I'm particularly proud of is The Complete Guide to Astrology. This morning it was number 3 of all books on astrology in Amazon.com. And since the number 1 and 2 are moon cards and a calendar, I kind of think I'm number 1, really.
Fabulous. That's really fabulous. So yes, as far as the water bearer or the ether, this is the energy. To me, that's ether, right? It's the bringing the ether or the what is above into the world. As above, so below, right? That's one of the key energies is this time. And recognizing we have open doors to all this new energy. So what are we doing with it, right? How are we drinking from that energy? So yes, absolutely. Do we have any final questions?
It's
Somebody had
say about
asked.
just say about the ether. It's kind of that energy of chaos as well. That in very old religions, that's kind of what we came from. Nyx came from chaos, and
Right.
yeah, it's all we come from
What's
the
the
murk and the chaos and the dream time.
right? Dream time. Well, it's the substance of the unknowing and the unknowable that becomes real when it hits the earth. So when you look at that picture of the star or the, you know, the idea that this energy coming from the from source coming into the world and becoming something on the earth, and that's us. What are we becoming? And our thoughts and ideas, what are they becoming? Oh, Edie, thank you. Love you too.
So if I
Will
do
you be
see any
sending
other
out the
questions, actually, I don't know.
yes, yes, we'll be sending out the recording.
To
We
all
will.
the emails of the registered, and it will go on YouTube as well, but you'll get the email first. So yeah.
And then I had a question about the Gemini moon. Somebody asked about the Gemini moon and how it impacts Geminis. I know it's necessarily related to this presentation, but
I think we were just commenting about how our air placements enjoy this move into air energy. I think that was when you were
no, but the
talking.
question was before somebody who was not on the presentation.
Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. So, yeah. So if there's no more questions, I don't know if we have much else to say. But except that, this is the Weirdly Magical podcast presentation, and we appreciate all and any reviews on iTunes or our Facebook page, follows on YouTube, Facebook page, Instagram, everywhere, just to help us grow our podcast even more. Jen and I will be sending out a link each for a special offer, which will, mine is a pre-recorded, about 40-minute reading, looking at the major energies of 2020 in your chart and giving you some guidance towards that. And also with a personal tarot pull card reading pull. Jen, what's yours?
Mine's a live reading, so it's based on numerology. It's a 30-minute reading, numerology and Akashic, and a card pull based on the year coming. So we had a question here. I just saw that is a good time to move next year. A lot of people will be moving next year just because 5 is about travel and 3 and long distance travel. Of course, you think about travel, that could be the travel of your mind, the travel of ideas, the travel of all those things. It's not just, with that Sagittarian and Gemini influence, it's all about expanding, opening, more education. But I think that the better time.
I wouldn't do it in the first 3 months, though.
Right, it's exactly. The second half of the year would be much better for moving, right? So I would probably go later in the year, um, say
Well,
around summer, maybe spring, summer, late spring, summer.
depends what you call a mature love relationship, Adriana, to be honest. Is it a year for maturity? Well, but Saturn's always there. That would probably depend on on your own chart. Both our offerings are going to be $108 each, so either one or both. Really, something like that is probably more of a personal question. As we are shifting from Earth age to Air age, what are some of the downsides to the Air age? Um, Yeah, well, the air. Okay. Well, the air age might have its own constrictions in its own way. There's also, with it being the age of Aquarius, it does have a little tendency towards authoritarianism, and that, and then there's the separation, the challenge of air. Probably more air viruses, more having to be more separate, as we've seen already with the physical or social distancing, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we picked that deliberately more.
Right. And as far as the other challenges to the air is also remembering that we can get caught up, like I talked about, caught up in an idea, the folly of an idea, where we get I'm so excited I can bring my idea to life that we forget about the meaning behind it. So that's a key thing with air. Everything
Plus,
travels.
Aquarius is a fixed sign too. So yeah.
Right. And our ideas, we can think that our ideas are the one. That's the authoritarian, or we can be afraid that our ideas are not good enough. And so we give in our ideas.
Mm.
But when we think about air, you have to think about not just flight and openness, but restriction, because lack of air brings restriction. So you got to think about not just one side of this energy, but the whole thing. What's inside air is the viruses traveling,
And,
right?
pollution, not being able to breathe fresh air, things like that. So they could be the downsides. These are all possibilities, of course. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Again, it's looking at it in the big picture of what do I want to experience? Is this working for me or no? And making those choices. Like,
Mhm.
what do you have
Yeah.
power over? Your power, right? Not over others, but over your own choices and thinking. All right.
Yes, George Floyd, and there was a couple of others as well. But we're at 90 minutes. I know I kind of set 2 hours on the time, but 90 minutes is more than enough for everybody. So I'll get the recording off to you later. And to those in the USA who are celebrating, happy Thanksgiving. And I hope you're having a quiet one. And yeah, happy Thanksgiving to US, and the rest of you, happy weekend, long weekend, or whatever. So it's goodbye from Lou.
And goodbye from Jen.